Hello, friends. You're tuned into the Esoteric Inquirer. My name is Andre. Thanks for taking the time to join me on my journey. I'm very happy to join you on yours as well. We are going to kick off our series on the planets and astrology. And what better way to start that off than by talking about our friend, the sun? So I'd hope that most of us have seen a sunrise. You're standing maybe on a hillside or wherever you choose to watch the sunrise. It's kind of dark. And then all of a sudden, the sun peaks over the horizon and its rays start spreading over everything. It touches every blade of grass, every tree, every plant, every stone, every body of water, every person, every place, everything. The sun doesn't pick and choose what it's going to shine on. It just shines. And it shines on absolutely everything in the world. It's the harbinger of day. Casts away the nighttime. Philosophically considered, the light of the sun is what stood out as its, most marked feature as well, obviously. So in ancient philosophy, the light in general, represents wisdom. And what's the opposite of wisdom? Ignorance. What's the opposite of light? Darkness. The sun is seen, or was seen, I should say, as a savior, as a symbol of casting away ignorance, exchanging it for light, restoring everything to its proper place, restoring the dimensions, proportions, colors, shapes to everything in the known world. Think of it. Back in ancient times, we didn't have lampposts. They didn't have lampposts. They didn't have anything like that. It was dark. It got really dark at nighttime. So and you would hear, strange animals, rustling in the forests or what have you. Crazy sounds like, what better way to, stay safe than stay in your cave, light a little fire, and just hunker down for the night and wait for the daybreak. It's kind of what the sun represents. And when the sun would come up, it brought comfort, brought peace. And it illuminates everything. Just as wisdom illuminates ignorance. Just as, wisdom illuminates obscurity. It restores everything to its proper place. And based on that symbology, there were many ancient peoples that revered the sun very highly. They didn't worship the sun, even though a lot of people say they worship the sun. What they did was they worshipped what the sun represented, because they could think of no other more appropriate and fitting symbol for that force of wisdom that illuminates all things with its benevolent light than the sun. So, seeing the sun would rise and, save everyone from the, inky blackness where everything just kind of muddled together, that was nighttime. The sun was seen as the savior. And, well, Andre, what does this have to do with astrology? I will tell you. What it has to do with astrology, it connects with astrology by that light that the sun gives off, that light of wisdom. The sun is kind of the torchbearer in our chart. When you access that light of your own personal sun, you are able to, kind of start bringing yourself out of the darkness of ignorance, of our own folly, of our own faults. So that's one representation of it. The sun in astrology rules our vital parts. So rules the heart, the spine, and the lungs, all of which are essential parts of our body. I mean, without them, the rest of our body wouldn't be able to function very well. Just as, it is with the solar system. Wouldn't the sun be considered the heart of the solar system? All the other planets revolve around the sun. Without the sun, there's no life. The conditions of life would not be met to be able to generate to be able to generate life. And the ancient Egyptians actually had a really interesting depiction of that too. I'm not sure how many of us have looked into that, but in ancient Egypt, the scarab was the symbol for the sun. The scarab, or the dung beetle. So what it would do is it would lay its eggs in a pile of mud or a pile of dung. It would take that bit of dung. It would find an incline somewhere. It would start rolling the bit of dung up the hill, and then it would let go, and it would roll back down the hill. The beetle would go back down, start pushing it up and up and up and up the hill again, and it would roll back down. Eventually, it had a perfectly sized, a perfectly proportioned round pellet, which it would then roll to wherever it wanted its eggs to incubate, and then they would hatch there. The ancient Egyptians saw that and were like, whoa, that's really interesting. That kind of represents the sun, because the sun always rolls across the sky. Goes back downhill, nighttime, comes back, rolls across the sky. And in the sun are the essential qualities of life. The germ of life, the vitality, our vitality. The sun, and we know this now in science. The sun gives you vitamin D. It's real good for you. You need some sunlight. So all those, so because of that, it's seen as this symbol of life and salvation. And so what the sun essentially represents is the light and salvation of wisdom, our core values and beliefs, what we should strive for, our vitality, what gives us life, our ideal mode of expression, our integrity, and our individuality. So it represents who we really are. Because when we start accessing that light of wisdom and acting out of it, we start acting with integrity. Kind of start to piece that together. So this can be kind of further analyzed by looking at the astrological glyph of the sun, which is the circle with the dot in the middle. So the dot in the middle is us. The circumference of that circle is everything else. When we take away the circumference and we're just left with that little dot, when we're just left with ourselves, when we take away all the material things that we have, all the distinctions, all the titles and whatnot, we're left with our core values, who we really are. So who are we really? It can also be kind of seen as, I kind of see it as a spotlight, the circumference of the circle being a spotlight, shining down on one specific point, which I guess kind of gives the affiliation with the star, like the king, or the performer, like the star of the show, because also, the sun being the heart of the solar system, it is the king of the solar system. It is the king. Because, again, without the sun, we would not be alive. The conditions for life, again, would not be met. So, by analyzing the placement of our sun and its aspects that it makes to other planets, we can get a clearer picture of where our core strengths lie and how we can cultivate and express them. When we start striving towards the qualities that our sun sign represents, so if your sun is in sun's in Virgo, if you were to start striving towards your more analytical side, your organizational factor, your your discernment, not criticism, discernment, practicality, and a myriad of other things. But when you start striving towards those qualities, you start acting with the good qualities of the sign, obviously. You start acting with integrity. And we act with integrity, everything goes much smoother. It's a much smoother ride for everyone involved. So that's kind of that kind of factors into life, you know. When we start striving towards our sun sign, like the sun, we embark on the hero's journey, and we already are embarking on the hero's journey. The hero's journey is life. You know, when we go through each of our own trials and tribulations, and we, you know, are victorious, we make great strides, we achieve milestones, we slowly start chipping away what doesn't fit with us, and we start understanding what our core values and principles are. That's why sun gods in ancient times were often depicted as having to go through Herculean labors. Hercules was a sun symbol, a solar symbol. So was Asclepius. So were, you know what? Actually, I'm not gonna. That's another video. It's another video. But yeah, sun gods often had to endure many trials and tribulations, often from the people that, you know, claim to love them most. But when we start expressing those positive traits of our sun sign, it kind of, what the sun does kind of starts, it illuminates all the other planets in our chart, no matter how seemingly opposed they are, no matter how, even if they're in opposite signs from the sun, or signs that wouldn't go well with the sun, the sign that the sun is in. It starts integrating everything else. Starts integrating it into our psyche, into our psychological model of being. And when this starts happening, the sun kind of acts like the king also. Because just like a benevolent king, the sun sees which person or which subject would be best suited for a position. And it starts delegating responsibilities to its faithful subjects by their unique talents, abilities, and strengths. So when we start striving towards our core principles, our core values, and core beliefs, we're able to start putting everything else in order. Everything else just kind of starts falling into place. Because when we start doing that, again, we act from the heart. Because that's what wisdom is. It's not necessarily the light of the mind. When we start acting in true wisdom, true benevolence, and true love, we act from the heart. And that is the goal. So, long and the short of it is that when, again, I know I keep repeating this, but want it to really, really stick. So, when we strive, when we embark on our hero's journey, and we strive towards the beliefs and values and principles that we hold dear, the light of wisdom begins to illuminate all it touches and turn everything into gold. Oh, the sun is also representative of gold. One of the interesting facts about that is that gold doesn't tarnish, stays shiny and beautiful forever. And yeah, so it starts turning everything into gold. Pretty cool. We have our own little King Midas right inside of us. And when we start striving towards those things, everything starts falling in order. Everything starts becoming what it really should be. So the sun is rightly called the king, the ruler, because at its core, at its, I guess I should say, at our core, when we start putting everything in order, we're able to start delegating and illuminating our other strengths, our other ways of expression through our principles. And, obviously we want to avoid the negative qualities of the sun, which would be the qualities of a negative king, which would be, it'd be egotistical, it'd be tyrannical, narcissistic, really cruel when wanting to achieve their own personal ambitions and not really regarding anyone else or anything else, and basically thinking that you're the sun and the stars revolve around you. We don't want to do that. Because we are kings and queens, but kings and queens of ourselves. Not kings and queens of like everyone else and everything else around us. When we step into the role of leadership of ourselves and self-governance, we again start acting with integrity. Start acting with with wisdom. And that's what we want to do. We want to act from the heart. So, my friends, are we acting from the heart? Are we striving towards our ambitions of what really represents us, of what we really hold dear? It's a little exercise that we can do. We can ask ourselves. So, start acting from the heart, my friends. Everything will go much smoother.